3D Spongebob acrylic nail art tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish.
Hi guys, in today's video I'm going to be showing you the start of a 3-video series for Spongebob. And so the first one is going to be Spongebob, and then the subsequent videos are going to be Patrick and Squidward. And they all have the same teal background and they all go together, and I actually really like these. They're very detailed for a cartoon, and the outlines aren't black, all of them. Some of them are a color instead, which I think is kind of cool. I always like it when you can kind of switch things up a little bit. So I hope you guys like this as much as I do. And if you have any requests for a character series, please let me know. I did Fred and Wilma from the Flintstones last month, and so if you want to see something else, just shoot me a comment below and I would love to filter through them and see what sparks my interest. And don't forget to click subscribe to see all my future videos as well.
So I'm going to begin with an overlay of a blue, some kind of a blue acrylic. Mine's a little bit on the teal side of the spectrum, but just something that's aquatic kind of feeling. And then I'm going to encase it with a layer of clear acrylic to make sure that that nail is really nice and strong. And now I'm going to be filing the nail into shape with my e-file using a medium grit bit. And after that nail is all filed and smoothed and no lumps and bumps are hanging on anymore, I'm going to use a pale yellow acrylic to begin sculpting SpongeBob's head. So I know that when you think of the SpongeBob color, it's more of like your classic banana yellow, a really bright yellow, but for this particular circumstance, a slightly less intense color just seems to work better. So I would go with more of a pastel yellow if you have it available to you. So I'm going to apply that over that, and as you could see, it's basically a square, but then just take little bits, the little tip of your brush, and create a wavy pattern on the square. And then I'm going to take his shirt with some white acrylic and sculpt that right underneath. And as long as your yellow has enough of a lip on it, you can just sort of butt that white acrylic up to the bottom of his head, just like if you were doing a reverse French manicure. And then I'm going to take some brown and add his shorts below the shirt. Same thing, as long as you have a sharp enough line on your acrylic, you should be able to just butt it up. Or if you're like me, you kind of get it over the top of it and then you clean it up with the tip of your brush. That works too. And I'm going to take some white acrylic and I'm going to be sculpting his eyes with white. So just set that bead down and then gently pat it into a nice oval. So his eyes aren't circular, they are definitely taller than they are wide, especially from this perspective since we aren't looking at SpongeBob straight on. He is ever so slightly turned to one side. And so there's the first eye, and now we're going to be working on the second eye. Typically, I would let that first eye set for a moment before I tried to sculpt something next to it with like another eye. But as you can see, I decided not to, and it is causing me some extra work there cleaning up the first one. That would have been just fine if I had waited a minute. But sometimes that's just how life rolls. Add a little bit more detail to his shirt, like the little folded down collar, with teeny tiny beads of white acrylic. That is something that if you didn't want to worry about sculpting, you could have just painted later. But his eyes, for SpongeBob in particular, I would definitely recommend sculpting them just because it gives him more of that classic look. And then back to my pale yellow, I'm going to be sculpting his nose and then his little cheek. So he's got a really nice broad smile, so his cheek pops up over the corner of his eye slightly. And then we're going to be sculpting his upper lip. So to sculpt the upper lip, you're going to go underneath the nose and then connect the corner of that little bit of acrylic to that cheek, and then to sculpt his lower lip, same thing, just a little bit of acrylic, and then pull and stretch that up until it gets to that cheek that we sculpted by the eye as well. And for me, I didn't have quite enough acrylic the first time I did it, so I'm going to add just a little bit more, really skinny little strip of acrylic here. So to do that, you might want to use a bit wetter of a bead than you may normally, just to get it so it's nice and thin. And then we're going to take and sculpt his tie and the inside of his mouth with red acrylic. So the tie goes right there on the middle of his shirt and then just comes down. It's a very simple square shape for the top of the tie, and then just that hanging down. Also add the top of his shorts with brown, and then just take a little bit of red acrylic inside his mouth. That is something that if you'd rather do with paint instead of acrylic, you definitely could. That one's basically personal preference. Add the tiny little bits of his legs. If you have the space, depending on the length of your nail, you may have more or less space to sculpt these little edge pieces. So that's something that you'll just have to fit the design to the space that you're working with. And then I'm going to take white acrylic and sculpt his teeth. He's got his 2 front teeth that you can see. So just place down really small beads of white acrylic and then press them into a very gentle square. Doesn't take too much work, and I wouldn't over mess with those because they're just going to pick up more and more pigment from the red mouth underneath. So now with green paint, I'm going to begin doing some of my outlines for SpongeBob. And like I said in the beginning of this video, there is a lot less black outlines on SpongeBob than a lot of other characters. So you can have some fun by doing some different color options. So I've got that green outline, and then I put down a couple little dots to add some of the porous qualities on his sides. And then I'm going to take, and I'm using black paint now, I'm going to be doing all the outlines of his facial features. So the other great thing about doing a color outline instead of a black outline for the perimeter of the design and for the little details is that when you do outline something with black, like his eyes and his nose and those facial features, it makes them stand out and seem so much more intense and really draws your eyes into the face, which typically is what you want. Generally speaking, you want the face and the eyes to be what the eye catches first. So that's kind of a nice little bonus to doing a color outline instead of a black outline. So I'm going to go through, and I'm also using that black to outline his clothes. So pretty much the only thing that I didn't use black for is going to be his yellow outside perimeter, but everything else I did use the black for, especially like the brown shorts where they're, if you outlined it with brown, it wouldn't really show up as much. So something darker, you're either going to go with a really, really dark brown that looks like black or black. So you might as well just use the black. Use some red to outline his little cheek. And then inside his eyes, we're going to take a really nice bright blue and add his iris. And then while we're waiting for that to dry, I'm just going to go into his mouth with a brighter shade of red, the same one that I did for his cheek, and add just a hint of a tongue in his mouth. So the more details you decide to add, that's up to you. You can take it further than I did or back it off a little bit compared to what I did. It's just up to you, and you can kind of play around with it and find your balance of the amount of work you want to do and the final result you're going for. Add some black and white in his eyes and some white over his teeth, and then apply some gel sealer over the background to make sure that that looks nice and shiny and wet, and then some matte top coat over SpongeBob, and that is it. Like I mentioned, I do have the tutorials for the next two coming on Friday and Saturday of this week, so definitely check back for those. And here is a Melody Minutes. Hey Melody, what's on your feet?
Upper socks?
Those are upper socks? Are those upper socks?
No.
What are they?
Upper socks?
Upper socks? Those are some pretty funny looking socks. Are they comfy?
Yeah.
That's good. Melody, were you just painting with butt cream?
Yeah.
Were you having fun?
Toes?
You got your toes? Do you like butt cream? Yeah. Was it a lot of fun?
Yeah. On the floor.
Yeah.
Hello, too.
It's on your pillow too? Is it on your hands?
Yeah.
Is it on your legs?
Yeah. My legs. Daddy shoes.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you like this design, and like I said, check back for those next tutorials, and I will see you next time. Bye.